Every kid has probably stood in their backyard with a plastic shovel and thought, what if I just kept digging? What if I dug a hole straight down through the center of the Earth? In the 1970s, the Soviet Union actually tried to do exactly that. It was a decades-long drilling project known as the Kola Super Deep Borehole. They pushed deeper than the deepest part of the ocean and further down than Mount Everest is tall. But despite drilling for 20 years, humanity barely scratched the surface. The hole kept collapsing, forcing scientists to seal it with this rusted metal cap. At 12.2 kilometers deep, they had reached only 0.2% of the way to the center. Since our drilling equipment can't survive the descent, we're going to continue the journey in an imaginary, indestructible vehicle that can ignore the rising heat and pressure. Because we are physically locked on the outside of the crust, we must rely entirely on science to see what is buried deep below us. As we cross the 50-kilometer threshold, the crust gives way to the mantle. Outside the ship, the ambient temperature and the surrounding pressure begin to skyrocket. Here, the temperature is high enough to melt rock, but the crushing weight of the Earth above creates so much pressure that the rock is forced to remain solid. This environment turns the solid rock into a gooey, plastic-like state. It is pliable enough to slowly flow in giant convection currents that take millions of years to complete a single cycle. This slow, upward churning of hot goop is the primary mechanism bringing heat from the planet's core up toward the surface we live on. If humans have never physically passed the crust, how do we actually know the mantle is gooey? Scientists found the answer by listening to earthquakes. Up here, we feel them as disasters, but deep underground, they act like a massive sonar that rings the entire planet like a bell. Earthquakes release two specific types of ripples, P waves and S waves, that travel downward through the planet. We can see them clearly on a seismograph. These ripples bend or stop completely as they transition between layers. This led to a massive discovery. S waves disappeared entirely on the far side of the planet. S waves cannot travel through liquids, proving they hit an impenetrable liquid layer. By capturing these altered waves on the surface, scientists turned earthquakes into an X-ray of the unseeable depths. We've dropped into the liquid outer core, where temperature finally defeats pressure. It is a cooking soup of molten metals at 4,400 degrees Celsius. The constant, violent churning of this metallic soup acts as a massive generator, creating enormous electric currents. When we zoom out to the whole planet, we see how these deep currents project Earth's invisible magnetic field into space. Without this subterranean engine, our magnetic shield would vanish, and cosmic radiation would strip the surface of all life. We push through the liquid storm to reach the exact center of our planet, 6,400 kilometers straight down. This is the inner core, a solid ball of iron that burns almost as hot as the surface of the sun. Despite the heat, the pressure here is 3.6 million times what it is on the surface. It is so crushing that the iron atoms literally lock in place, unable to melt. And seismic data shows something even stranger. This solid sphere is spinning at a different rate than the crust, speeding up and slowing down on a 70-year cycle. The heart of our world is a disconnected entity, beating to a rhythm completely separate from the reality we experience up here. Let's head back up, ascending through the solid core, the liquid metal, and the gooey rock, until we return to the quiet surface. We may be a curious species, locked out of our own planet's depths, but by listening closely, we found the engine keeping us alive. Now it's time for Curious Question. If you could instantly, safely teleport to one of Earth's hidden layers for just 10 seconds, which one would you want to see? Tell us what you think. We'd love to read your answers. If you're a curious mind, this is just the beginning. You might find something interesting waiting for you right there on your screen.